Hello again, this is Preheat. Welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. So today we're going to be talking about Devastation Evoker in patch 10.2 Guardians of the Dream. So there's a lot of information that I'm sure you've missed because you've either been playing Augmentation or maybe you've been playing other games. But we're here today to catch you up to speed on all the stuff that's happening in the patch for Devastation. So we're going to start off with the first thing, which is this change to the mastery. So essentially what they've done here is they've added a floor to our mastery. So at 30% health, our mastery will no longer fall off. We'll always at least get 30% of our mastery value. And they've also made it so that mastery is less effective in general. So they've reduced its effectiveness by 25%. To compensate for this damage loss, they've also increased our damage by 5%. So what this means is that our mastery is going to be less bursty. We're going to do less in our cooldowns, but our damage overall will be increased. And honestly, this is a good change. I'm happy about this change because, you know, there's a problem, right? When you're playing Devastation, you're trying to hit a low health target, you're trying to finish something off. It just feels like you can't really do anything, like you're kind of helpless to kill the target. And it's a big problem in PvP as well. So this change should bring some level of normacy to your damage, especially when it comes to mastery. But the biggest thing is that it changes the value of our secondary stats because, you know, obviously if we're getting less value of our mastery, it's going to be less effective overall. We'll probably do less stacking of mastery, which is a good thing, right? Mastery is a stat that we've been stacking really hard this entire expansion. And it's something that you stack as augmentation too. So right here, I've created this diagram to kind of give you an idea of where secondary stats start to diminish. So if you aren't aware, there's basically a point where every secondary stat will become 10% less effective, 20% less effective, and it just gets worse and worse, right? So the first level, it depends on the stat, right? But for crit, it's going to be 5,400. For haste, it's 5,100. For mastery, it's 5,400, same as crit. And then for versatility, it's way up there at 6,150. So if you reach this point and you go above it, any points that you put in above that cap are going to be basically taxed by 10%. They're going to be reduced there, so you only get 90% effectiveness. And then if you reach the second one, right, if you go like above 7,020, then you're going to be getting only 80% effectiveness, so 20% tax essentially. So this is important because our secondary stats are changing. Like I said, we're getting less value out of our mastery, which means we're not really wanting to stack mastery anymore. And as it turns out, our other stats are actually pretty good. So I've been running a lot of sims on the PTR. I've also been playing on the 10.2 PTR as well to try and get an idea of how the new Evoker tier set works and all that. And I've kind of noticed that it feels like all of your secondary stats feel important. But I will say that in general, crit seems to be the leader in terms of which stat is the best. So just to give you an idea, to show a little bit of my work, I do want to show this. Keep in mind, this is a preliminary sim. Don't read too much into it. But what I want to show here is the scale factors, and I've basically been tooling these with Top Gear and with Reforged plots to try and find the sweet spot for all of them. And it kind of feels like no matter what you put your stats at, as long as you kind of have like an equal distribution with crit being slightly ahead, all of your stats kind of fall within that range where you can't definitively say that one is better than the other. And it took me a while to get them to be this even. So just keep in mind that this is just for my character. This is just for the sim that I did after I kind of equalized the stats. But I'm going to show you how much this character is actually running when it comes to its stats. So right down here, it says we have 5,000 crit, we have 3,300 haste, we have 3,800 mastery, and we have 2,800 versatility. So, I mean, these are pretty even when it comes to its stats, right? Obviously, crit is ahead, but everything else is about the same. And just keep in mind that secondary stats are going to fluctuate, right? Obviously, if you reach the point where you're going over the cap, they're going to fluctuate even more because you're getting less of that stat. But what this is basically telling us is that in patch 10.2 as Devastation Evoker, you don't have to focus on a single stat anymore. You can kind of just gear your character as long as you're making, smart decisions, constantly simming your character, trying to find what your top gear is. You should probably have kind of like a rainbow distribution of your stats, which I think is overall a good thing. And it definitely makes the gameplay feel better too, having more haste, having more versatility for that tankiness. I think this is opening doors for us, and I think it's a good change. That being said, though, there are negatives to this change as well, right? So the first one is obvious. If you're playing augmentation, you just want mastery. You crit and haste are okay. Versatility is bad. So if you're running all of those stats that you don't really care about, so augmentation is devastation, and then you're swapping over, it's going to be harder to gear up for both of them with the same gear set, which means we're likely going to have a lot of pieces that are different depending on which spec we're playing, which is fine. You know, a lot of classes play like this, but it is unfortunately a downside to this change. Also, just in case you're wondering what your mastery stat's going to look like in the patch, this is what mine is with 5,100 mastery. I'm at 56%. The other big change coming in 10.2 is our new tier bonus, and I've actually done a write-up on Wowhead if you want to see like the extended cut on this. But I'm just going to break it down really plainly for you here. So basically our 2-piece bonus makes it so that our Dragon Rage, while it's active, makes us deal more damage, right? So the longer we're in Dragon Rage, the more damage we get. It caps out 25%, and it only takes about 30 seconds for it to happen. So at the end of Dragon Rage, we do more. And then the 4-piece bonus makes it so that after Dragon Rage ends, we get that damage bonus. It persists on us, so we will still be doing 25% more damage. And we also get a Essence Burst every 5 seconds, which is pretty nice. You get around 5 of these whenever you exit your Dragon Rage. And obviously it means if you play better around your Dragon Rage, if you extend it more, you get a bigger bonus because once again, Emerald Trance is based off the amount of time you're in Dragon Rage. So the more time we spend capped out at 25%, the more damage we're going to be dealing. This is definitely a pretty big deal in AoE because you can keep Dragon Rage up much easier in AoE, but it does feel kind of bad if you aren't able to make use of the Emerald Trance that follows your cooldowns. And that seems to be a pretty common occurrence right now on the PTR. So if you're doing dungeons and you just finished up the pack, it's pretty common. You have Emerald Trance on you, it's ticking, you're doing 25% damage, and the tank isn't pulling. The group's just completely still, right? You're just waiting for the next pull. So obviously in Raid, that won't be a problem. But if you're playing in Pugs, right, it's going to be a little frustrating for you because you're going to be like, come on, guys, come on, I've got my buffs up, let's go. And you're just sitting on the pole. If you're wondering about how strong this tier bonus is, it is around a 16.5% increase to have the current tier set 4-piece, and that is with the current tuning. So obviously this could change in the future, but it is a very strong tier bonus and definitely something you want to get your hands on as soon as possible. So I'm not going to get too far into the details because I do have a guide for 10.2 Devastation coming out soon, but I do want to give you a quick update on the rotation, especially if you're playing Event Horizon. If you're not familiar with Event Horizon, this is going to be basically the same thing that you could play on live. The only difference between what I'm going to do here and live is that I'm no longer going to care about holding my power so that I have the time for my tier bonus to do damage because we don't have that tier bonus anymore. We don't need to hold our powers. The only reason we would need to hold our powers is if we have a Dragon Rage coming up soon. So the opener is going to be pretty straightforward, same as before. I'm going to click off my Ancient Flame here since I won't normally have that. We're going to precast our Living Flame and we're going to go straight into our Dragon Rage. We're going to Eternity Surge first, into Fire Breath, into Shattering Star Trinket Potion, and then use our Disintegrates. And if I was getting PI, I would not be clipping like I am. The only reason I'm clipping is because I don't have enough haste for it to really stop me from doing that. But once we get to our second Eternity Surge, we want to go ahead and send that and use Tip the Scales. Use Tip the Scales on Fire Breath there. And I am eyeballing my Shattering Star. I want to use that as soon as possible, as soon as it's up. We're going to keep clipping here, keep going through as quick as we can. Use this Living Flame here. Use our third Eternity Surge. Getting through this, trying to get to our third Fire Breath, boom, and we get those third extensions. So as you can see here, getting really nice extensions on our Dragon Rage. And I'm not going to worry about trying to end my Dragon Rage with Essence Burst because this tier bonus is going to give me so much Essence Burst that I can't really hold it all anyways. I'm just going to be so Essence capped. It's not even going to be funny. So I'm going to send my powers here on cooldown as soon as they come up. But you'll notice I don't really have much time to be pressing Living Flame because there's just so much essence to burn here. And even with the Shattering Star, like I just sent it and I need to immediately use that Disintegrate. That way I don't lose it. By the way, this little bar, it just disappeared as soon as I tried to point it out. But the little bar with the green and the ticks, I've made this. It's a weak aura that tracks your new tier bonus. It's on my Wago. You'll find it in the video description below. Once again, I'll be coming out with a video that tells you more about the rotation and how to play it in maybe a week or two for Devastation. I want to make sure we get the changes in there if they do any sort of tuning adjustments to affect stuff. But in the meantime, if you're playing on PTR and you want to have my weak aura, you can find it in the video description below. But outside of cooldowns, really just try to press Disintegrate, use your Empowers as soon as they come up. The only reason you would hold your Empowers is if you have your Dragon Rage right about to come up, and we want to make sure that we are sending those just like so. Here, I'm going to have my Dragon Rage coming up. I know I'm probably not going to get that third extension. It's just not going to happen. So what I'm going to do is just keep on casting here until my Dragon Rage is about to come up. I use my Verdant Embrace there just to get Ancient Flame proc. We're going to use our trinkets, everything there. Again, Shattering Star as soon as it comes up. Same thing as before, we're clipping our casts. So we're going to make sure to clip those right on the third tick. It's a very minimal gain, but it's worth it unless you have just a ton of haste. Using our Eternity Surge as soon as it's up. Tip the Scales Fire Breath here. And we want to make sure we use our Burnout procs too if we can. We have a Shattering Star coming up, so I'm going to go ahead and send that. And, oh, we almost got to the 3rd extension, actually. That was super close. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty great. Event Horizon's nice. There's big value in getting that extension, but we barely missed it. If I just had a little bit more haste. Definitely could add more haste to my character and make that a little bit easier to grab. Definitely seems like it might be worth it. But yeah, obviously we'll have to wait and see in The Sims what the playstyle ends up being. It's going to take some time to figure that out. But for right now, I would say just kind of go with this playstyle here. Same as Event Horizon on live, just do not hold your empowers. That's the biggest difference. Anyways, I've been doing the rotation for long enough here. And so I think it's time for me to just wrap this up. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of my content, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell because I will have a Devastation guide coming out sometime soon. So hopefully you enjoy your time on the PTR and you're liking Evoker still. I wish you the best of luck and I will see you in the next one.